Mirror, mirror, why you looking so sad?
So I really think of addiction as being like the ultimate avoidance. As humans, I think that we all kind of avoid stuff. Our brain is like, oh, I don't like that. Let me get away from it, which is a really efficient strategy like outside of us. But for our internal states of being, like it doesn't really work too well. So addiction is kind of like pro-class avoidance.
And for the most part, it doesn't really matter what the substance is. We're using that to avoid some experience. We're using that to avoid the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings. That's how mindfulness can be helpful. When you get sober, you are still going to have those urges. You're still going to want that drug. We're not here to say it's ever going to go away.
And I think there's a common thread of understanding that's in all of us, right? Like who hasn't been like, oh, I don't need to eat that whole pint of ice cream, but I'm going to do it anyway. One more episode on Netflix. I don't really need to go to the gym today. Any human can understand that urge to do something that we like know is not in our best interest. We kind of compulsively still do it. And I feel like that's kind of like the seed of understanding. This being human, it just takes on a life of its own.
Any craving lasts like 5 minutes on average. For some people, it's much longer, much more intense. But for the most part, it's going to go away whether people use or not.
Like mindfulness is this whole idea of like just show up to your life. Learn how to show up to your life. Getting comfortable in your own skin. Having that willingness to kind of be like, here's the full catastrophe of life and I'm just going to feel it all, which takes a lot of courage when you think about sobriety or even harm reduction and like letting go of some of that like safety of like I need to escape for a little while.
Harm reduction approach, right? It could be that like you use that skill sometimes, coping, avoidance, right? Which is substance use. But then let's add more to your tool belt. For the most part, I think that's why I entered this field is that we know people use substances, so let's work with that.
It always kind of blows their mind when they realize, wait, you don't want me to quit. You're not going to force me to quit. I can choose how I do this. And of course, abstinence is the ultimate harm reduction. I know that's not very popular, but it's true. If that's what's required for the individual. But that's why I got into it, is because I just like helping people feel that they're not alone and they're not a terrible person. They're not broken. It served a purpose for a very long time and it helped them feel better, but it's a progressive condition.
I guess along with that comes in the whole topic of AA and 12-step recovery programs, you know, and I think the thing that I really love, you had already mentioned that it's such a condition or disorder of isolation and loneliness. I do love that about a recovery community. Like it's an instant support group, it's an instant community. And this is a monster of a disorder. I mean, it destroys people's lives, right? So it's like anything I think that you can get at to use to like fight it is important, whether that be harm reduction or AA or some sort of combination of both.
You know, within the mental health field, substance use was often ignored or not looked at, right?
It was like siloed.
Right, yeah,
Over
it's just
here,
like
there.
this is one thing and this is the other. It's like, no, they're so intertwined, and specifically like the population that I tend to work with, LGBTQ population, right? That's the go-to coping skill, and that's, you know, how we're all connected with one another is going to a bar scene or using drugs together. It's hard to like take that away because it's a coping skill, right?
Sure.
And it's a relationship.
It's
and
connection.
it's helpful, you know, in some ways, right?
Go get sober and then we'll talk about your depression.
Right.
Well, how are you ever going to be able to get sober if you don't, you know, get your mental health in check?
They are intertwined. They are, you know, one and the same. They fuel each other. It's a vicious cycle.
Something that I really love about doing this is hope, right? I think that so many times people look at addiction, especially like over and over and over, if people have been in treatment a zillion times, that they just get so discouraged with that, or their families get so discouraged with that. Sometimes that's like one of my favorite parts of being a counselor is like when somebody comes in and I haven't met them and I haven't been to their 800 treatment things and I don't know all their stories. I just get to see them today making this effort right now to like be better or have a better life, and I love that.
I always tell my clients, you know, the past is not who you are today. You can't change any of that. All you can do is be in the present moment in the here and now and decide where to go from here. The invitation to try to work towards, you know, something that's important to them, you know, and reprioritize their substance use in their life, you know, make it less important and
That's
try to move
scary,
forward. Yeah.
right? You know, to ask somebody to do that too, and I think that that's why it is that we exist, right? Is to help folks navigate those moments, is to actually be present and be mindful after you've been using substances to avoid being present and mindful. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, you're asking me to do what? The thing that I've been avoiding for
Right.
X number of years
Right.
or however long it's been. So that's why we exist.
Sure. And we'll do it together.
Yeah.
Mirror, mirror, you ain't looking so right.